Good morning. Good Friday morning. I wanted to come on and spend a few minutes talking about my childhood, not childhood, but my young adulthood and some of the things that I saw. And one of the pertinent things right now is what's happening in Iran. I think it's important for us to look at countries that where citizens are going to the streets knowing that they very likely could be gunned down by the military there. And they went ahead and did that because they wanted freedom in their country. They've been under the rule of the imams since 1979, and they're dying for their right to have freedom. We have an election coming up in May. If you've never voted before, get registered and go vote. This is something that is our right, but rights can be lost. We moved to, I told you this before, but we moved to North Africa, to Libya, when I was 8 years old. We lived there for about 4 years. During that time, the king was overthrown and the military Gaddafi took over. And then when I was 17, we moved to Tehran, Iran, and that was when I was at the airport getting ready to go to Tehran. Nixon was impeached, and that was on the headlines of the newspaper as I was leaving the country. So all sorts of historical things came crashing in together that year. And when we got to Tehran, I'd lived in Bahrain in my 10th grade year. So I've lived in Libya, I've lived in Bahrain, I lived in Iran, and so I was able to compare those countries. Iran was the most modern country of any of those that I lived in, outside of Europe. The women wore the height of fashion. They I worked as a secretary, and the women would have like 3 dresses, the height of fashion. Now that's all they just repeat and wear and wear. It's so odd for us here, but their makeup was beautiful, their hair was beautiful. They wore modern dress on the streets. There were some who wore the chador, the black and showing just one eye, but we went to Christian churches there. There were all sorts of religions that were welcome to practice there when the Shah was in power. The country was beautiful. The food was fabulous. I've traveled around the country in different part, the southern part, and then lived in the northern part. Just beautiful, just beautiful. And you tend to think of Iran as a Muslim country because the imams came in and took over like they did. But I was just doing a little research now, and right now 60 to 68% of Iranians are not Muslim, and they're having to live under the Muslim rule. I was there 3 months before the Shah was deposed, and I sort of knew it was coming because, well, first off, I'd already lived in a country that had gone through something similar, but there were riots taking place. I didn't see any riots, but we heard about them. They were happening in different towns, and then they were happening in Tehran, and what the pattern was, the people would go out to protest. First off, the Shah did lots of great things for that country, but he said that he was trying to get the country ready for democracy. And in my opinion, I thought that he just went too slowly and people got fed up, is the way it felt. But he had become very authoritarian. He had executed some political dissidents. I think the number I found was about 3,000 people in the 40 years he was in power, or however many decades. So that authoritarian stance caused the people to be angry and to fight back. So they would go to the streets to protest, and then they would be gunned down like the imams did, and then the Iranians would have uh, large funerals. It's a huge custom in that country to mourning is a very important process of their social fabric, and so there were huge funerals, and the funerals would become protests, and then they would come and shoot some more protesters, and then there'd be more funerals, and then there would be more protests. So it just snowballed into the Shah having to leave the country. The Iranian people, I was really shocked and dismayed that they embraced theocratic rule, that the religious rulers, the imams, were able to rule the country, because I knew that really wasn't, it didn't jive with the people and their way of life. So what I've read, and I watched some Iranian podcasters, and from the way it sounds, the people really thought that the theocratic rule would lessen the oppression, and they were wrong. The Iranian imams, I think the amount of people that they've killed, as far as dissidents and shooting and the riots on the streets, ranges anywhere from 4,000 to 100,000. And just Amnesty International recorded 8 to 30,000 killed just in the 5 months that there was a purge in 1988. So I would, especially with all the tens of thousands that they killed recently, the protesters that were taking to the streets, it sounds like 30 to 40,000 just this year were murdered on the streets by these imams and their military arm. So I say that because I want you to see how much people have given up their lives, and they reached a point where they had bad water, kind of similar to us, and they did not have the representation that they wanted. They weren't being listened to by their leaders. We have that happening here. Is this country going to be overthrown soon? I'm not saying that. But I do think our rights are precious. I think our vote is a right, and I think it is a right that hundreds of thousands, millions of people around the world would die to have. And we've had people die for us to have this right to vote. And my hope is that you will say, look what's happening over there. And they don't have what I have. And so I hope you won't sit home and go, oh, well, somebody else will vote them out, because nobody likes them. They're going to be voted out whether I go to the polls or not. One city council person here and a friend of mine who was a city council person in Texas were put into office by the vote to their party was 2 more than the other person. 2 more votes. That's how important it is for you to show up at the polls. You can't depend on your neighbors to vote the way you want them to vote and just not show up. Oh, well, everybody's going to go vote for the person that I want because the person that is in there, the person they're running against, doesn't have the reputation for speaking up for the citizens. So I don't have to worry about it. You should worry about it. You are an American. You have a right and a privilege to vote. Gosh, I wish I could think of another way to say it. Just show up, May 16th. Let's send a message. I firmly believe that people across this state are watching this election. This is the first election where social media has taken the forefront. You know what's going on because you're going on Concerned Citizens for Sulphur Facebook group, and you're watching. I know that Joshua's video, I visited with him for a minute this morning, has over 50,000 views from yesterday, where he was being mistreated by the city. And people, that's we only have 10,000 registered voters in Sulphur. We only have 20,000, including kids. We only have a population of 20,000, and over 55,000 people have seen that video. People are watching across the state. They want to know what you, the citizens are going to do. If there's enough, and there are small towns across this state that could do what we're doing. They could have hope. And yes, if I get in and Josh gets in, Cindy gets in, and we begin speaking for the citizens, that's great. We should make some changes quickly, and some other changes will take a long time, but changes will be made. And politicians, well, if they're smart, they're nervous. But the powers that be, people who have funded this for years, and they're used to having their way in Sulphur, in Louisiana, across the state, they're watching to see what you do. And my hope is that the citizens that voted down the stupid home rule charter that was put in front of us in 2023, my hope is that 70% of voters show up this time. And let's make it 80-20. Let's get enough, and the more people that go, the higher that percentage will be for the citizens. Because the group that vote for the politicians that have been in power forever, that group stays the same. It doesn't grow. But the rest of you who aren't going to the polls, you're not the kind of voters that would vote for them anyway. It's time to go. It's time to send a message to all of them. We not only want to change, we want you to know that there is a mandate. We only have like 30% of voters, registered voters, show up. Let's make it 50. I wish it were 100. Let's make it 50%. So if you've never gone, show up this time and watch those numbers grow. And let's see what happens in Sulphur. And let's see if we can't make that a movement that reverberates across the state. I really thank you for listening, and I thank you for listening to my story about my young adulthood and my views on what's happening over there, and how it relates to what we have going on here. Thanks so much. Y'all have a great Friday.